into the top 5 things that you should know. We're going to start off with a big one, Kyle. One of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world, Binance, had a bit of a troubled past previously, if you didn't know, where they were running around from different jurisdictions trying to find what worked for them. Along that road, they actually ended up nixing US investors and saying no more trading on our platform. That is until they opened BinanceUs, their US subsidiary focused on American investors. And they made some big news last week because BinanceUs has officially said that the previous comptroller of the United States, Brian Brooks, is their new CEO. Huge news, Kyle.
This is amazing. Brian Brooks is, as the comptroller of the currency, which was his former position, it's a regulatory body that oversees all federally national chartered banks. So this guy is deciding the regulations and how banks should act as federally chartered organizations. And so taking someone that has this really huge position in the bank scene here in the United States from a regulatory perspective and bringing that into Binance's exchange is something that's incredibly exciting for this platform.
What's more is Brian Brooks was an outspoken individual about blockchain and cryptocurrency technology. So he was very vocal within the industry in helping the government and even the banking system start to understand blockchain and its applications. So now he's going to use that weight and influence and experience, obviously, to help Binance in its new road. And in his at least one of the quotes and one of the responses to this announcement, he said specifically that they are looking to diversify the platform, the US Binance arm, specifically not to be around crypto assets, but actually looking and seeking right now the right licenses in order to be able to expand. So for those of you who are reading in between the lines there, Kyle, I think what they're saying is Binance is looking beyond cryptocurrency to say, hey, tokenized stocks, security tokens, what other regulated trading vehicles can we support on the US arm of Binance?
Yeah, to take that a step further, he also said that this is the company most likely to give Coinbase a run for its money. And Coinbase has a broker and an ATS license to allow them to trade these securities. So if he's looking at positioning BinanceUs as a Coinbase competitor, you'd have to expect he's going to move in that direction. Not to mention that we have covered on the show last week that Binance has officially launched tokenized stocks. These are derivatives of public market shares like Tesla, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, and more that they're offering for their international investors. US investors can't buy into these things yet, but potentially he's exploring some of those options. And I mean, you can't bring a better guy that's more connected in that scene than a guy like Brian Brooks.
Definitely sounds like the right candidate to help the company achieve the right regulatory status for them to expand and, as you said, become a real competitor to Coinbase. So very, very exciting. Let's move on to number 2, Kyle.
Number 2 comes from a security token issuer. And this is Infinite Fleet. Now, Infinite Fleet is a video game launched. It's an online multiplayer real-time strategy game launched by the platform Exordium. And Exordium essentially raised a security token offering to develop the video game, to raise funds for the video game. And it's fascinating because they just announced a $500,000 check from Polyant Ventures that brings the total raise to $7.2 million.
Wow.
So they were aiming for $8 million. They're already at $7.2, and they're showing no signs of stopping, closing just another check here. They've raised about $3.7 million from the Stalker investment platform that we've covered in the past, and that's STOKR. You can check it out there, and then the rest is private. So they're really flying on this front. I can't wait to dig into this just because we had to highlight a super successful security token offering that's even taking it a step further, because not only are they just a video game and they're fundraising for a revenue share of the sales that the game makes.
Which is a great novel use case.
Fantastic, right? We've seen intellectual property been thrown around as an idea, but never yet has it been executed quite in this way.
As a video game publisher specifically.
But we've all heard of NFTs, and they've actually sold over 300 NFTs that can be redeemed in-game and traded on a market. So these are going to be rare items that you can get in the game, and they're also going to be traded and potentially used in future games. You could potentially port it from one platform to another. So they're pioneering from a security token offering perspective, raising a successful, at 7.2, it could potentially, who knows where it's going to go from there, and also leveraging in this NFT scene from the esports gaming world that, again, everybody's been talking about. We haven't fully seen this taken advantage of in this scale yet. So Infinite Fleet, this is just many different successes here.
Previous Company of the Week winner for that very reason they are really bridging the crypto community by highlighting all these different technologies into one novel use case. They have a lot of big crypto backers, I think like Samson Mao and many others, and I have no doubt, Kyle, that they're going to reach their full funding goal. It's such an exciting project. As I said, it's a novel use case. I think it's a great application of security token technology, NFT technology, and a lot of crypto people like to game. So I think it's getting a lot of people excited. So I'm looking forward to this one too.
The best version of those, I think one of the greatest use cases you could have for some of these things.
Sure.
So exciting stuff, and great to see that they're successful in their fundraise process. Let's see where it goes from here. We'll give you some updates, but let's move on to number 3.
Number 3, Smartlands. So this is actually a UK-based company. You may have remembered them if you've been following the show. Back in 2019, they actually launched a student housing real estate security token project on their platform. And now, actually, in April, as of last week, they're announcing a new platform that's actually built on the Stellar blockchain. And they'll be addressing the new Ukraine audience that they're trying to focus on. So that's an extremely interesting development. They say that the Ukraine, a lot like Liechtenstein, is one of these new jurisdictions that's actually well supported and designed for security tokens and blockchain-based instruments. And their goal is actually to tokenize over $1 billion with this new platform. They've partnered up with a company in the Ukraine called Agroxy, hopefully I'm saying that right, and they're an STO marketplace. So presumably now through the Smartlands platform here, they have created an end-to-end solution with Agroxy for security tokens to be issued in the Ukraine and of course then listed on Agroxy. So it'll be curious to see if they expand beyond real estate, which is what they've primarily been focused on with their name Smartlands. But I think it's an exciting development. I'm looking forward to checking out their platform.
Yeah, I actually digged in a little bit deeper on this one as well and have some interesting things that caught my eye. The first one is you might be thinking, why Ukraine, right? I mean, obviously, no offense to Ukraine, but it does seem like a kind of random jurisdiction to issue in. And what I saw here was that they have significant regulatory support from the governing body. And the reason why is because the Ukraine government is actually currently building a central bank digital currency on Stellar. So the central bank digital currency is creating a stable coin or some kind of asset to use literally as a currency. And so the government's already fully supporting, leveraging this stuff. They've got forward-thinking regulation on asset management and investment using blockchain-based assets. So Smartlands picked the Ukraine, citing not only Ukraine but Liechtenstein as two of the more forward-thinking jurisdictions, and we've seen that in the regulations they've passed over time. But then just to answer your last question, Herwig, I also was able to see that they plan to start with real estate, and the move is then to transition into small to medium enterprises, moving into equities as well. So they are going to be diving into all of that stuff, and I mean, this is a great platform. They want to do the fundraise as well as the secondary market to provide trading capabilities for these kinds of assets, and they're really trying to cover the whole map. They've done it before on a little test basis with their UK property. Yeah. That was successful about a year or two ago, and now they're really trying to launch the full thing.
They proved the concept. They've got ambitious plans. We've seen other companies, just like we saw with Securrency, a company of the week, focus on the UAE expansion. They're now focusing on a Ukraine expansion. I think it makes a lot of sense. We're going to see a lot of other companies do something similar. Meanwhile, congratulations to Smartlands on their new platform built on Stellar. And I guess we're going to hopefully see some more security tokens issued on the Stellar blockchain now, which is also very exciting.
Interesting stuff.
Moving into number 4, Maker, which its token, by the way, has shot up over 55% in the last week alone and 6-fold this year. Tell us, why is this happening, Kyle?
So Maker's a DeFi protocol, right? And this idea of DeFi really got caught on because of the idea of collateralized lending. And the idea here is we can create a system where if I own a specific set of assets, I could get liquidity for those assets using smart contracts without requiring any permission to do so, right? Permissionless lending is really the key here. So if I stake, $1,000 worth of an asset, I could potentially get $500 worth of cash that I could use to invest in something else, essentially giving me leverage on the assets that I have in the underlying system. And so this idea blew up about a year ago in the DeFi summer, and that term kind of went everywhere. And Maker is also, capitalizing on that. Not only do they have the decentralized lending protocol, but you also might recognize the stable coin that they launched called DAI, D-A-I, built on the Ethereum blockchain, used for a lot of the Ethereum dividend payments we've talked about from real estate properties, as well as a lot of these other pieces. That's issued through Maker as well. And really the highlight here and the thing that caught our eye for the fourth topic here is that they're actually creating real estate lending. So they're taking real world assets and providing the same collateralized lending process that was pioneered through cryptocurrencies. And originally with cryptocurrencies, it was easy because that's a pretty unregulated industry. We're not talking about securities. But with the lending of real world securities, it can get difficult. So they've tried to kind of work their way around that, and I'm going to do my best to try to break it down. So what happens is they're working with a company called Centrifuge. And Centrifuge has a protocol called the New Silver Lending Protocol. The idea here is that they take the deed of a house, just the full deed of the house, and they create a one-of-one NFT of it. So they create one token that represents the deed of the underlying property. Now, with the deed of the property, that could in theory be appraised, and you could stake that deed into the protocol to be able to get liquidity for it. Now, there doesn't seem like there's potentially, the legal ramifications here. Not sure about that yet. Not sure about what your reclamation process might look like if there was a default. But we do see that this was actually successfully executed for a real estate deed, giving $38,000 in collateral to the underlying issuer, to the lendee that staked this. So they took their NFT of the deed, they staked it in the protocol, were able to get $38,000 in cash for liquidity while essentially like pawning this deed in that process. Something that's fascinating. I think that maybe it could still be iterated upon, but a great way to kick it off.
One of the first true blockchain-based mortgages, though, so that is an incredible feat. Like we said, we are not so sure on the regulatory climate on this one, but for sure this is pioneering stuff, and I think that's probably what's helping the maker price shoot up so far in both the adoption with the DAI stablecoin as well as new innovations like this one.
Yeah, they've been quoted in research reports of being a decentralized bank from some of these investment banks and analyst firms around the world. So it does seem like they're picking up steam, and they're really trying to build the rails to allow the people on top to build on it. So Centrifuge has offered this really interesting way to potentially get collateral for your real estate property. And we see tokenized real estate on the market now with Realty and others that have issued real estate tokenized properties. You could, in theory, potentially launch something like this on top as well and get real liquidity for your underlying asset. So fascinating stuff. Congratulations to Maker, but it's only 4 because we're still not quite sure if it's a security or not yet.
I'm sure there's a lot of important special players helping them out, figure that one out. So, but definitely dig into it and do your own research. Meanwhile, let's get to number 5, which is Stacks. It's actually a Singapore-based company.
STACS.
STACS. And they are announcing a $3.6 million round. And that's actually on top of the other funding that they've already received, totaling to a total of $6 million that they've raised. So definitely not a small sum of money. And actually, it's because they've been very successful to date. They have clients like BNP Paribas, Deutsche Bank, and many, many more. They've been part of a lot of different important trials, including with the Singapore Exchange, and I believe the central bank. And also, they've recently launched Green Stacks, which is an ESG platform that's focused on actually helping authenticate and make sure that whenever money is invested in a security token with an ESG factor, that it's actually validated to make sure that the money is going towards green pledges. So definitely an important aspect to when you want to invest in something digital and have a green conscious of it, you want to make sure you can verify that that's actually the case. So very, very exciting platform. I'm a big fan of the ESG component there. And Singapore continues to prove itself as a major hotbed with another financing round from yet another issuance platform in the space, providing more blockchain-based settlement and solutions for the financial institutions out there. So very, very exciting. Congratulations to Stacks, yet another company in the industry raising money.
I like Stacks' plan here. They really want to keep the focus on blockchain-based settlement and clearing for these asset transfers. This is something that we've seen become a real problem in the public markets, where we have this T+2 settlement time, where you've got multiple days of time where the asset isn't actually registered to the new owner, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's caused some real structural issues around the shorting and a lot of these fees and things like that have been associated, that have caused serious headaches for investors and for Robinhood and for all these other platforms as well. So this process of the traditional financial markets is just outdated at this point. And so seeing Stacks not only focusing on creating environmental, sustainable platforms for investment, but also keeping the focus on the blockchain-based settlement and how we can upgrade our financial system. It's a real win for the whole industry.
And they're not stopping there. They say that they're going to do another Series A later this year, so they're going to keep on raising that money.
Congratulations to Stacks.
And with that, that's all the top 5 news that you need to know from last week. Let's get into the rest of the industry updates.